Hi, hola, buenas noches, good afternoon, or good morning, depending what time you are viewing this on our webpage. I am Melia or Melia Ben Susan, delighted to welcome you to this very special Seen and Heard um, on A Christmas Carol, the second show of our 60th anniversary season, all of which I hear you all cheering as I say 60th anniversary season. And I have thank you, Hero. I have three wonderful actors joining me. For Christmas Carol, A Ghost Story of Christmas, we have two different episodes of Seen and Heard. So make sure to also watch the one with Michael Wilson, our adapter and director. And right now, I have the tremendous honor, truly an honor, to welcome three actors from that production: Alan Gilmore, Hero Hendrik Baker, and John-Andrew Morrison. And just so thrilled to have you all here at Hartford Stage. You all have different histories at this theater, so it is something I want to dip into a little bit. As I welcome, I welcome two of you back home to Hartford Stage, and we'll hear the various reasons why. And Alan, am I correct? This is your first time appearing on our stage? We
Yes,
have
it
tried
certainly
to
is.
get Alan, we have tried to get Alan in the past, so we are very, very excited to have Alan Gilmore as our Scrooge. Um, Welcome, Alan. Let me start with you. What is it like at this point in rehearsals, at this point in your life, to be playing Scrooge in this Christmas Carol? And it's not your first, excuse me, it's not your first Christmas Carol either.
It's not my first rodeo, Melia. I was let me see, my first Christmas Carol was in probably 91 at Jiva Theater in Rochester. And I was Christmas past. I tumbled out of a what do you call that stuff that you put your clothes in? I'm trying not to say
A
chaperon.
hamper, like a dirty,
Not a,
like a
it's like
hamper.
no, it's
Like a
because a hamper
wardrobe,
I think of where
an
you a
armoire.
wardrobe.
Yeah,
But
I was
didn't you
very
say dirty
flexible.
clothes? Didn't you say?
I pictured like a
I
washing
thought that's where
machine.
the
Yeah,
hamper. I thought that's what
exactly.
the hamper's for. So
So
yeah, it
tumbled
was.
out of the armoire.
I tumbled out of the armoire, very flexible, and was Christmas past, and then in probably 2005, I was in my first Christmas Carol at Goodman Theater in Chicago. And then in 2014, I was what I call Black Scrooge. Um, and I was Black Scrooge until 2021.
Because there was a white Scrooge. That's it.
There
There
was a
were
White
two
Scrooge. There were
Scrooges.
two Scrooges. There were two of us. And the great Larry Yando was really the main Scrooge. I was what they call alternate Scrooge. And so that meant that I had my own shows scheduled. I would do probably about two shows a week because there's like 10 shows a week of the Christmas Carol. So I would take some of the burden off of Larry. And then, of course, I was his cover. But this is my first time being, the
The
regular. I'm no longer Black Scrooge. I'm just Scrooge.
You're
So
just Scrooge, my friend. You are the Scrooge.
it's an honor. It's a dream come true because it is a bucket list role. I campaigned for it in Chicago then, in 2014 or really 2000 and maybe 13 or 12. And so it was quite the wonderful gift to get to, test those waters. And now here I am
We're so
swimming in the deep
thrilled.
end.
We're so thrilled.
Me, we've had this conversation. You say you're more thrilled. Oh, I'm more thrilled than you. But I dare
I
say
win. I
I'm
win.
pretty doggone thrilled.
Okay. Um, Jam, I'm gonna
Yeah.
turn to you, sir. I have been teasing you, and I will, of course, tease again that we now need to call you Tony-nominated John-Andrew Morrison. And I'm just trying to figure out how you fit Tony-nominated into the acronym. So that's the challenge now.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
Jatinum. Jatinum. It
Yeah.
doesn't.
Oh,
It
jam.
doesn't roll off the tongue
Right.
anymore.
It's And just to say to all of you watching, these three people have extraordinary bios, and you can read about them on our webpage, right? I want to hear their voices more than recite their accomplishments, so I'll make you do some reading. But Jam, you have been part of A Christmas Carol for how many years?
So this is my fourth Christmas Carol at Hartford stage, but my first time playing Christmas Present and Bert. So for 3 seasons, I was Mr. Marvel and getting to ride in on the card and have a brilliant time doing that. And this year, I've stepped up and I'm now playing Christmas Present, which is an amazing role with an amazing costume, and it's very extra, and it's very, 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 very. I mean, the thing about this production, it's just so lush and lavish, and it really is a delicious production, and so I'm very happy to be back and get to tackle this role now,
Yeah, it's really a magical thing to come into this room and see faces who did this show before in different roles, kind of growing up with the show or transforming. I mean, I know, there's at least one actor I can think of who started as a young person playing a young person's role and is now playing a more senior person. And
yeah.
how many plays can you do that in?
Yeah. And as you were, maybe a wonderful transition to talk about the fact that maybe there was someone who was baking.
Maybe. So let us go over. So, Hero, I feel an intro to you, my friend. Hero, do you want to tell us about your first Christmas Carol?
With pleasure, yes. Oh my gosh. Well, we joke actually that, when I was writing my bio, everyone was like, the first thing, right, they ask is like to list your Hartford stage credits. And I was like, well, unborn child of Mrs. Fred was technically right, my first role here. So my mother, Michelle Ong Hendrick, played Mrs. Fred and Belle.
And what roles are you playing, my friend?
I'm playing Mrs. Cratchit. Yes.
So go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Tell us about your mom 25 years ago.
Yeah. So in 2000, she was pregnant with me doing this show in the early kind of days. And she did the show for, I think, 14 years. Yeah. So my mom played the track of Belle and Mrs. Fred for 14 years here at Hartford Stage. And I am now here playing Mrs. Cratchit, which feels very full circle. But I'm also the understudy for Mrs. Fred Belle. And so we have, I think, Melia, you have some photos of...
I have 2 photos of Hero in a costume, same costume with her mother of her mom in that same costume. There's very few productions, right, Jam? I mean, this is Jam gave me the perfect lead-in where one can step right into a parent's role.
It's a legacy. I mean, I was even thinking about our music director was part of the kids company.
He was Tiny Tim.
He was Tiny Tim, and Eric was, I think, every kid. He was Peter. I can't remember who he played, but now he's Fred. And so it's an amazing legacy that this production has been able to bring for Hartford.
And I think for the community, it's the same, right? So those of you in the community who've been watching it, maybe you came before you with kids, maybe you brought kids, maybe now you get to come see the show with a grandchild, right? I mean, 25 years, a lot of life cycle events happen in that period.
Yeah.
What has been for any of you, what's a highlight of what's been going on in the rehearsal room? This is week 3. You go on stage a week from today. To begin
What?
adding, yeah, sorry, Alan, it's fine. Good. I know, all good. Um, we'll be adding lights and costumes and scenic elements and all the, as Jam, as you were saying, all these sort of sumptuous production elements that have really made this production such a gem of the holiday season here in this region. So what comes to mind when I ask you how rehearsals are going, or what's a highlight of a rehearsal that you could share with our audiences?
I personally have just been having such a great time with Michael. He's got so many first time ideas for me. And, as I say, I have been in this role before, for a number of years. And there's so many things that I'm hearing from him in this rehearsal process that I never thought of when I had been working on it before. And so, they just so enrich the process for me and the journey to this particular Scrooge, that's a collaboration with Michael Wilson. It has been incredible. There are so many places where I'm like, oh wow, I never thought of that. Oh yes, that's a great
That's special.
sort of a sort of a way into this idea or a color of this idea that I just hadn't explored before. So that's been it for me. And to see the work of the other, actors, especially the ones who have been around this particular production before, Noble,
Oh goodness.
obviously Jam, the
Yeah.
veteran, Bob, Rebecca, just to kind of see their work on something that has been sort of getting seasoned, if you will, season after season. Look at what I did there.
That was
Season.
nice. Nicely done.
Thank you.
And I will say to our audience, there's another documentary, a short documentary that is also available online that interviews some of these folks that were just mentioned, right? Where we capture Noble speaking about his experience of all these years of A Christmas Carol. So
Sarah Kilo, that rhymes with pillow, and
Yeah.
her movement expertise with the with the young company and the Hart students that are playing all of the apparitions. It's been fascinating to see. But the thing that I just can't wait to see is the tech, when they really do all of the sumptuousness of it. And I just want to throw this in very quickly and then I'll, stop talking. That Jam doesn't take a show if he's not, like got a fabulous, fabulous entrance and a fabulous, incredible costume and just, riches, pouring out of his clothes and out of it. He doesn't.
True.
He did a show. He did a show last summer where it was the same thing. He was so fabulous that he had his own face imprinted on the back of his costume. And whenever he would come out on the stage, the back of the stage, back wall of the stage was a big digital screen, and it would show his image, show his face in close
Jam,
up.
this is now in your contracts, right?
It is. My costume must have a train and headdress and must be automated. Otherwise. Oh, gosh.
What's it like? I mean, the three of you are acting now. Hero, you were not a student that long ago, but nonetheless, now you're in the equity company. But the three of you, part of what to me is so special about the company of A Christmas Carol, kind of like when you do Shakespeare, there's very few productions where we get all the generations rehearsing together. So you have our seasoned actors who, have tread the boards, as we say, for almost half a century in some cases, right? And then you've got 8-year-olds and Hart students in the middle. And what does the room feel like to you all with that kind of 44? There's 44 actors in this production.
With some of the little ones, you had better get your lines right because they will tell you that
Is
you've
that
gotten it
right?
wrong. Yes, I said, "Oh, did you see him laugh?" And this young lady went, "The line is smile, not laugh." So they keep you on your toes, which is a lot of fun.
Who's mentoring who, eh?
Yeah,
I
Right,
mean,
right. I'm sure be hearing them a lot.
Yeah.
oh my gosh. So that's been fun. And it's been fun to like see actually how Michael like engages with them and like treats them as if they are professional actors as well and makes, those demands. I'm like, no, you can do it this way or you
right,
can,
right.
and it's been really great to see them step up and little Elliot was all in Fred's party yesterday and was like making choices and it was great. It was really great to
Well,
see.
this is almost like doing a musical, yeah? I
Yeah,
mean,
right.
in terms of scale, right? And we have the singing of the carols and we have dance. So it's a full, it's a extravaganza. It's a
Yeah,
holiday extravaganza.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's humbling in a way too to be in a room where there's so many moving, right? Like you're really just this one, not even 40th, because once you take in the crew and everyone, like you're this like 1/60th of the piece of the puzzle that's coming together. And the knowledge and the lore and the wisdom that's kind of coming from all this intergenerational stuff that we've been talking about, or the just curiosity and kind of lightness of the kids, or the
Right,
dance talent of the Hart students, and the kind
right.
of like impeccable detail of the SM team. And it's really just like it speaks to the story. It's so meta in a way of like all these little pieces coming together, and then we get to like add the audience and that final piece that we always are kind of waiting on.
yeah,
It,
Mm.
Getting to do
and I
that is just
think
going to be
the
so.
richness as you all speak, I mean, this is a really bad metaphor, but it almost makes me think, how wine gets better as it ages, and this production does have all the flavors of different histories in
yeah,
this production. Some folks are saying these lines. I mean, Jam, you're saying lines that you heard an actor you loved
Yeah, yeah.
say. So
Alan,
you're
yeah.
infused with Alan as
Yeah.
well as being a fan of his, and he
Yeah.
was, such an important person to you. And then I imagine, Noble having played this with, a number of Scrooges, right, Alan? And so
right.
now there's this joy in finding a new partner in a
Yeah,
scene, but also
yeah,
carrying what you learned from your other partners.
Yeah.
yes, yes. It's I don't have the words to describe it. It's so great, I play a couple of really pivotal scenes with Noble, and just what he brings to those both those characters, Dilber and then Marley, and to be out there with him, and not only the seasoning once again that he has in those roles, but that he just has as a person and a human, who has been not only at this craft for so long, but just living life as a grounded, centered, thoughtful, caring human being. He brings all of that onto that stage and into those scenes, and it really is magnificent to
And we
watch
should say
to be
this
able
is
to have.
really, in this adaptation, a really interesting case of doubling. No, Alan, can you talk about, because it's really about Scrooge's relationship with these two humans, both played by Noble.
Right, right, yeah. It's it's so interesting the texture of both of them because it,
Can you
I,
tell this audience who the two characters are?
oh, I beg your pardon. Yes, of course. Well, Dilber, Mrs. Dilber, is Scrooge's um, house person, if you will. Looks after him, is the maid, the cook, the cleaning woman. But of course, in the early part of the show. She is, the recipient of, a lot of his abuse. And then, of course, but what I'm sure people have seen the play here at Hartford. We didn't have this relationship necessarily when I was doing it at Goodman, but what the undercurrent is in that relationship between, or at least from Mrs. Dilber, and probably also undercurrent from Scrooge, is that they care for each other. They actually care, and even when I was watching the scene today where Mrs. Dilber brings some of his items, some of Scrooge's items.
I know exactly what you're about to say. Yeah.
Yeah. And the way that Noble just kind of lays in so simply, but so clearly and so carefully how Dilber actually cares for him. But he has not been kind to her, and he has not been a good boss. And in some ways, she's taking advantage of that. But you can see that there's a little hurt, there's a little caring there, and a little regret that she's having to do this in order to survive, because now she has no job because he's died. This is in the vision of the future, the ghost of the future. And then, of course, with Marley, again, it's one of those things where it's a character who is friends with Scrooge, caring, but also giving him tough love. Tough. You wouldn't even call it love. It's this part of what's frightening about the story is how Marley comes in and the things that he does in that scene, and also the things that he says. They're not just kind of scary like, ooh, ghosts. They're scary like, wow.
Yeah.
This guy's in a living hell.
But it's the significant person. The two significant people in Scrooge's life are played in our production by the same actor, always have been, and thanks to Michael's adaptation, which I think is really moving.
Yeah.
What we all know the story, so I won't ask you to tell us what the story is about, but can I ask each of you, what does it mean to you, Christmas Carol? What is Dickens' Christmas Carol or Michael Wilson's wonderful adaptation, and being inside this, what's it about to you?
It's
Jam,
interesting. It's interesting because every year we come back, and I guess that speaks to the richness of the original thing. There is a different focus or a different lens that you kind of like live with the piece. And yesterday we were working on the ignorance and want, and it was very interesting to kind of like think about the piece from that lens of someone who has shut themselves off and has been willfully ignorant and not wanting to look at their impact and notice how their choices impact the world, and getting to see this person, his impact reflected on him, and him then making a choice to actually serve humanity. There was something really beautiful and interesting to me about this kind of journey from ignorance to expansion, ignorance to willingness, ignorance, but for so much of it, he is willfully hard and willfully ignorant and just and because he doesn't know how to love, and love has evaded him, and it's been a hard thing, and it's a hard thing to be tender. It's easy to be tough, and it's easy to be willfully ignorant rather than go, oh, I could actually impact these people's lives and make things easier for them. And so I've just like, that's been the thing that's stuck with me during rehearsal about this piece this year. But I think it just speaks to the richness of the piece, because like you can find so many ways in, but that's been the one that's been resonating with me this year.
That's wonderful. Alan or Hero, other thoughts? What is it? What do you take away from the story?
I always say,
No, go.
I always say that it's such a joy. I'm sure it's a joy to see the show. It's a joy to do it. Having experienced playing Scrooge before, I call it a self-cleaning role. And what I mean is that you have no story if there isn't a really ugly, nasty, mean, angry, belligerent, bullying brute at the beginning of this story. And in order to achieve that, in order to do it, I have to find that in me, and I've got that.
Yep. We all do, right?
Yeah.
We all do.
We all do. Exactly. And what happens is I even find myself out there on the stage doing things, required to do things that kind of hurt Alan a little bit, but I'm doing them to my friends. I'm doing them to Hero. I'm doing these horrible things to Jam, to John-Andrew. I'm doing
Tony nominated John-Andrew
Morrison. Tony nominated.
In the big costume, Jam. Yeah.
Right. And the glorious entrance and everything. I'm doing these things that are horrible, and it's a little painful in that kind of schizophrenic way. Alan using his own ugly, his own angry and bitter and ugly, all that stuff, to be mean and ugly to these wonderful children out there, and being ugly too, these sweet little angels. But what happens is I go on this journey and relive these things, and some of them, we once again, just like you said, we all have that Scrooge, but we all have these pasts where we all understand something about the pain that our lives have brought us, the loss of loved ones, the missed opportunities, the things that you say, gosh, I wish I had that back to try to do it again the right way, a better way. And when you take that journey as Scrooge and as Alan, and you pop out on the other side, it's shown you all these wonderful things about the possibilities if you are able to reach out and grab the opportunity to make some changes. I think that's why everybody goes to see it, because everybody's got that ugly, ugly thing inside. And we can all take a moment, at least once a year, to look at that and to look also at ways that we can all be better. And so you pop out on the other side, genuinely filled with joy, genuinely filled with, just forgiveness and the lightness of having unburdened yourself of all of that toxicity. So I just find it a great, great journey where I'm ready to dance in the street, having done the show, having come out, having done a performance of it. I'm just like, wow, but you have to go out there like it really in kind of a horrible place.
It's wonderful. It's a wonderful description, though, right? And we all join you on that journey. We all dance with you at the end. How about you, Hero? What do you take away?
How to follow? No, I think that this phrase, the Scrooge within all of us, has been something that Michael has been bringing to rehearsal in a really kind of poignant way. And I think that the scale of the implication of that is also something that keeps people coming back to the show and keeps the artists and the audience, involved, and keeps the show relevant. I think that, even my character being sort of this motherly archetype, right? We just did the sad Cratchit scene, and there's real Scroogeness to her in that scene, and a real cut-offness that she's finding herself in for good reason, but finding the moment that she chooses, as Scrooge does, as so many of the characters do, and I think that we all have to, finding the moment that you push past that instinct and to like choose the openness, choose the hope, right? The extension
Yeah.
is really powerful. It's like really moving.
I love what you're saying, right? I mean, I do thank all of you for being a part of this. I think this is the essence of what theater gives us, is the opportunity to see our best selves, right? To practice our best selves, a sort of a gym for the darkness and the light, and just sort of have other people act it out so we can remember that it's all within us. And we need you as the actors on the stage doing that for us. So thank you for being part of A Christmas Carol. You don't want to miss this production. These wonderful actors will start preparing with the technical elements next week. They start performing the Friday after Thanksgiving, that Thanksgiving weekend. It's a pretty perfect play for Thanksgiving weekend. I gotta say, I look forward to those first previews right after the day of Thanksgiving to celebrate the transformation that theater could bring, thanks to artists like you being with us.
Thank
Well
you.
said.
Thank
Well
you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Melia.
See you all at the theater. Come see Christmas Carol, and make sure to watch the Michael Wilson interview on Seen and Heard too. You'll hear him praise all these people. So it's
Oh, and Michael, how he sings Judy Garland to us in rehearsal, it makes the
incredible.
rehearsal
Highlight.
day
So incredible.
so much
Wonderful.
better.
that is a
That's
new
the
little
real highlight
gift.
of
So
rehearsal.
maybe we'll auction off Michael Wilson singing Judy Garland in the lobby around Christmas
Do it.
Carol performances.
You should.
Thank you all so much for joining us. Alan, Jam, Hero, thank you, and see you all at the theater. Come see Christmas Carol.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.